Audience question: I am an elementary school teacher. Just as you mentioned earlier, nowadays, China is such a great country, but so many children study abroad, and the age of studying abroad is getting younger and younger. I currently teach 5th grade students, and last week, a student in our class received an acceptance letter from a school in the UK, which means they might go abroad while still in primary school. I'm wondering, Professor Wang, if you were to go back to your youth with similar opportunities and the financial means, would you choose to study abroad? And if so, at what age and for how long would you go? Wang answers: you have an assumption, right? Assuming I am currently in my youth, in this era, and in such a social situation, then I would definitely want to go abroad. Question from audience: when would you go? Temporarily or for higher education? Actually, a person's values are mainly formed during certain stages of life. For example, I think the high school stage is crucial. Would you go abroad during that time? Wang answers: first, let me explain why I would want to go abroad. It's because I have a deeper understanding of the next generation now. I can communicate with them, and when I do, they believe that what I say reflects their thoughts. That's one advantage of being a university teacher. You don't realize you're getting older because all you see is young people, right? Your confidence returns, and you forget that you're getting older. Then you communicate with them and understand them. So why would I go abroad? If I were young now, I really don't think there would be much meaning in staying with my parents. What's the point of interacting with you all the time? Isn't it the same thing every day? Right? I don't have a sense of purpose here, truly. I feel like I'm not grounded. I might as well go out and see what's out there. That's the simplest thought. When I was a child, I went to learn farming, and I was away from my parents for only a month. I missed home, and after a week, I wanted to go back quickly. I was concerned about my parents. This is true. Because when I was with my parents, it wasn't as mechanical and simple as it is today, with a desert-like interaction, you know? At that time, there was something. My father would sometimes talk to me about something related to his work and give me examples. He would say, if you encounter this in the future, how would you handle it? He would have that kind of excellent communication with me. He also knew when I was feeling down, and he would say, why are you feeling down? How can you not feel better? He would communicate with me. In other words, I would miss home, and I also had responsibilities. Why? Because that era had many difficulties, especially after the Cultural Revolution broke out. My father was labeled a capitalist roader, and my mother was labeled a runaway landlord. So, my mother had to attend theory study classes every day. She was a housewife, but theory was something she had to study. She would go to register in the morning and come back very late in the afternoon. My sister and I would cook and wait for our parents to come home. We would also observe their facial expressions. Why? If they had a worried expression, we knew they had a tough day outside, so we would be more cautious. If their faces looked relaxed, we would be happy because they didn't suffer much that day. That sense of responsibility was there. My sister and I took care of the home and waited for them to come back. Sometimes we would also comfort them appropriately. This is the kind of connection with parents that you can't sever, you know? So my sister went abroad to study in 1986. She went to pursue a PhD, having completed her master's degree in China. The day before she left, we had a family dinner at home, and we all shed tears. In reality, my sister didn't want to leave our home, but she insisted on going abroad to pursue her PhD. So today, if you put me back in my youth and place me in the current context, I completely understand the younger generation. It's not that they don't miss their parents, they will definitely miss them once they are abroad. But when they leave, They don't have any attachment because there's no excitement or meaning here. The school is just the same, and the teachers are constantly watching over them, right? When they come back, their parents start giving them instructions, asking about their day, and imposing rules on them. They feel constrained all the time, right? What's the point of that? It's better to go out and explore, that's the idea. According to proper reasoning, studying abroad should align with the concept of learning advanced things from overseas and returning to serve the nation, right? That's how it should be, otherwise, it's not considered studying abroad. But now, studying abroad has become a different path in life, which is quite strange. Question from audience. The question is about filial piety. Filial piety is a tradition in China that has been around for many years. However, as a psychology researcher, I have encountered a major challenge when it comes to this, which is that in China, children are expected to be obedient. But we all know that our parents haven't learned how to educate children properly, and even some of our values are biased. Insisting on blindly demanding obedience from children actually brings a lot of harm. There have been cases where mothers continue to follow their children even when they go to university, living in the same room, until the child feels trapped and decides to end their life. They carry a heavy burden because they believe that if they don't do this, they would be violating filial piety and going against Chinese values. So, I'm not sure how to view this aspect because children are actually conflicted. Wang answers, I think the question raised by that person is not really related to filial piety. If a mother treats her child in such a way that she controls every aspect of their life according to her ideal expectations, including not allowing the child to do anything on their own and sending them to school and follow as a companion, it has nothing to do with filial piety. What is it then? It means that the child has to live under the intense control of the mother's will from a young age, and that is the mother's issue. Filial piety does not mean simply obeying. The Confucian concept of filial piety is not about blind obedience. What does it mean then? It means that it is an interactive relationship where the child feels love and care from the parents, and they should have a heart to repay that. If there is no heart to repay, then they are worse than beasts. Filial piety is natural, as Professor Luo mentioned, it arises from nature. We should not distort filial piety in that way. Indeed, in the practice of Confucianism's ideals about life, there can be a form of hierarchical oppression, such as the idea that a ruler can demand the death of a subject, and the subject has no choice but to die, or that a father can demand the death of a son, and the son has no choice but to die. This is a misrepresented practice of Confucianism. It is not the true intention of Confucian thought, nor is it the true essence of Chinese culture. So, I think the issue lies with the parents themselves. They see their children as their private property. They don't realize that the child is an independent life, right? The child should reciprocate the love they receive, that's as it should be, right? Therefore, I think parents nowadays should be a bit lazy and not too diligent. There are some things you shouldn't take care of, and if you don't take care of them, the child will come to take care of them. I see my mother as relatively lazy, so my sister and I ended up being more diligent. If she had done everything, there would be nothing left for us to do, right? But when we see a chair falling or a hot water bottle tipping over, we get worried, right? Because she doesn't take care of those things, so we have to. Parents these days have a big problem, which is that they do everything themselves, and they don't give their children a sense of shared destiny with the family, right? So the sense of experiencing joys and hardships together is very important. When we were young, we shared joys and hardships with our parents because they didn't do everything for us. And our traditional, truly healthy education in China emphasizes that children should be independent. You must take on the responsibilities you should bear, and if you don't, I will criticize you. Now it's the other way around, where children don't have to take care of anything, they just have to do well in their studies. In such cases, they often don't do well in their studies either because they have no sense of responsibility.